thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Why I Love Flagler County, your local podcast spotlighting local businesses and local residents on why they love being in Flagler County. So today I'm super excited to have my guest, Mr. Jeff, with us today. Jeff, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
So great seeing you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do in the community
Oh,
also.
thank you. Jeff, I just realized we've seen each other 3 days in a row now.
Yes,
Yeah, hopefully you're not sick of me. Hopefully it's still
not at
okay.
all. It's a
Okay, great to
pleasure,
hear.
and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited for that. Well, Jeff and I know each other through my dad. They met through mutual friends, my dad, and then Kim Sunshine is also a really great friend that we have in common. Um, so it's super awesome to learn more about what you do because I know vaguely what you do and I know the market that you do. I've interviewed some people in the past about it, but I'd love to hear about yours. But to get started, I'd love to know your story on coming down here to Flagler, to Palm Coast. What has that journey been like for you?
Well, terrific. Yeah, the outline is I grew up in New Jersey, was educated, went to college there, got my first teaching job, so excited to change the world. And the union decided to go on strike the first year. So it's like, what? You can't do this. I'm here to change the world. So we are out on strike, I guess a month or something like that. And then I wound up getting laid off with close to 300 teachers in that school system. And then shot down to Tallahassee, Florida, taught another year, complete opposite. This one was a very inner city, best education I ever had about dealing with kids, seeing the other side of the tracks, so to speak. Never saw divorce, child abuse, single parent, never saw any of that. So this was quite a eye opening there. Then down to Tallahassee, taught middle school, and that was a blast. And that was in a very upscale neighborhood. So I
Mm.
got a taste of the good, the bad, and the ugly as far as the teaching environment. And then I went into a grocery store just for a summer job to do that. Wound up being a store director in 6 months, and then stayed in the grocery business for close to 15 years, jumped around all over the South. And then I switched over into the wholesale business for another 15 years. But all this time, so I got transferred down from Atlanta, Georgia to St. Augustine. So that was good. So we were looking for schools for my youngest daughter. She was right at the eighth grade, and then she would go into high school. So we weren't really super excited about the schools in St. Augustine at that time. And then Palm Coast came up, and they had a international baccalaureate program because my youngest daughter takes after her mom because she has all the intelligence. Uh, so we decided to go to Palm Coast and been in Flagler ever since. So since 2002. So we've been here for the math is what 22 years,
Yep.
and just love Flagler. It's a blessing. It's perfect. I've always grown up near the shore
Hmm.
and just love it.
Yeah, I'm sure she got some of your intelligence from you as well.
Maybe a
I think
small.
I I think a
Your
good
ratio
amount.
is off a
I think a
little.
good amount. Well, it's so awesome. And it's so I think it's really true what they say is that the best learning experiences you get are from the hardest of circumstances. And I think especially when dealing with kids and you need to teach them this level of discipline, but you need to teach them in a way that is respectful to them as well, because they're human beings as well. And I'm really passionate about that. I mean, I don't work with on that level. I just do volunteering on the weekends with my local church for children. And because they're other people's children, I don't want to like if like a kid is doing something you don't want them to do, you're like, okay, how do I tell them to stop without like it getting out of control? Like I don't need it to infect other kids, but I want to make sure I'm treating this 3-year-old with respect as well because they're still a person. So it's really interesting to hear your experience on going from the different counties, the different spaces, the different grades. All of
Yeah.
these things play a factor in how these kids grow up. So it's super interesting to hear about that. So I'd love, I mean, knowing your background in teaching and then wholesale and then all of these things, what brought you into Solutions by Salm?
Well, that's a great question. I always thought you went to college, got your job, and do that for the rest of your life.
Right.
I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit and never really ever let it go. So while I was doing my teaching in corporate and everything else, I'd always have quote unquote the side hustle. So I'd always have one or two other income streams, more like hobbies.
Mm,
So I've always done that. So on my last job back in, let's see, 2015, the axe came for me because we're going to change the corporation. And
mm,
Jeff, we don't need you any longer. So I
yeah.
was um, laid off, fired, downsized, whatever fits into that.
Right.
So, and it really didn't affect me or bother me that much because I've always had a side hustle. So then I just went full time into that. And Solutions by Salm has been around for a while. And it's primarily a B2B business solution for businesses.
Hmm.
So I take my corporate experience, life training, like you were mentioning, and then help business owners just to take the blinders off of doing whatever they do best to increase and widen that scope a little bit so that they know that there's other things going on in their business that they may not be experts at. So I help them maximize um, taxable refunds, do other like type of insurances. My
Sure.
main focus is texting, business texting to optimize their marketing efforts.
Hmm.
So we all
Yeah.
text, everybody texts. So
I
now we
texted
want
you this morning.
is to do that also to stay in touch with their loyal group and then also acquire new business
Yeah.
by adding new customers.
Yeah. Is there
So it's fun.
anything that when you talk to these businesses about, helping them bring them solutions, take those blinders off, and especially when it comes to text marketing, is there anything that you tell them that they didn't realize? Like, oh, this is why text marketing makes sense for your business. And they're like, oh my gosh, that thought never occurred to me, which is why you have the solution. But anything like that?
Well, absolutely, because traditional marketing and advertising is the old paradigm is you just use the newspaper, you do your Facebook, you do your Instagram, you get your plane and have a banner flying around the beach for you. Whatever the marketing is,
Right.
you're into that rut, so to speak. Texting is a 30-year-old technology that is more relevant today than it was during its inception if we use it properly. And that's what my job is to do, is to show you how to use texting effectively. So I nickname myself the text tutor. So
Right. Yeah, I heard that yesterday.
yeah,
Oh, that's so texting's been around for 30 years?
30 years. You
What
know
was
what the
the
first text was? Any
what?
idea?
No.
It
Hi.
was Merry Christmas. So 2 weeks before Christmas, 30 years ago, and it was Merry Christmas. So
How did it start? I feel like I don't know anything about this.
yes,
We don't
so
have to go too long into it, but I'm just like, this is
so
crazy to me.
when texting was developed, again, just like the internet was used between the universities, texting was also in a very small incubator,
Mm.
started, and then it blew up, expanded, expanded, expanded. And now today, you are within 2 feet of your phone 24 hours a day. It's on your nightstand, it's in your pocket. I see folks out to dinner whenever we go out too, there's a family and you got some people's faces buried in their phone. They look up every once in a while and say, oh yeah, it's a great idea. So, so it's
Guilty. Yeah,
everywhere. So
I
let's
know.
use it effectively
Exactly.
off your business.
Yeah, I think that's really great because I think a lot of people also want to make sure, especially with email marketing. I feel like email marketing is still very much a thing. People still very
Yep,
much email. But like you said, it's the effectiveness of it.
yep,
It's crafting that message, doing it in the way that makes the most sense to your business and your clientele. Because the fact of the matter is, a lot of people get a lot of texts throughout the day. They are on their phone a lot of the times, but sometimes people don't respond. They don't check these things. They don't open them in the first place. So that's why they work with someone like you to make sure that they're not just using this program, but they're using it in the way that makes the most sense for their business.
Exactly. I'd
Yeah.
like to add to that. You nailed it right there. It's called open rate. So whatever
Mm,
your open rate is, emails, the stats right now are about 20 to 21% of emails are opened.
hmm
Texting, our data is 98% of all texts are opened within 2 minutes. So if you have an audience, you know your message is getting delivered and consumed. So
I believe that
yeah,
wholeheartedly. You know that when you hear statistics sometimes and you're like, I don't believe that, but I then there are some where you're like, yeah, that sounds outrageous, but I believe it. I understand because I'm the way like I won't open a text unless I know I have to respond at that second or I want to respond at that second. But I usually respond open things all the time, even accidentally. I see a notification and I just have to click it. I have so much curiosity. But that's so cool that I had no idea that number one, that statistic and that it's been around for so long. I guess 30 years would make sense considering we're coming on 2024. So I guess 30 years I was thinking of like the 1950s, but I'm realizing that that was no. So I guess 30 years does track. That's my bad. I don't know what year I thought we were in. Um, but regardless, so Jeff, you've been here for about 22 years, sorry. So I'm sure you've seen Palm Coast just completely change and expand and grow in ways that I'm sure you did not see coming when you first moved here. Um, what would you recommend for new people in the area to, maybe events or communities or groups or anywhere they can kind of go to kind of get to know the people a little bit more?
absolutely. Yes. Palm Coast is, was, when I first got here, had a negative connotation of being a retirement area.
Yeah,
And that's the way it started, obviously. But now, because the population has grown so quickly in 2006, 2007, and 8, it was the largest growing county residentially in the United States 2 years running. So now our population is way, way up there, well over 100,000. We have all the amenities we need now. When I first got here, I had to go to Daytona or St. Augustine to get some other product services or even
nice.
some better restaurants. So it's all here now. How to get involved, you just have to open up the paper, the community centers. It caters to all groups. There are so many groups that are available and they're so easily accessed. Even the county has a web page of different stuff. The Observer is a good circulated once a week paper here and has all the events that are there. There is an enormous amount of activity for every age group and even different ethnic groups. They have all
Sure.
kinds of groups for everything.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. You
Yeah.
can be as involved in Palm Coast as you want or as isolated as you want.
Right. I really loved the part that you said, it's there. You have to go look for it a little bit. I think that's true
Yeah.
for anywhere you live anyway. But I know it's a very common question I get sometimes when people sometimes a little bit older than me, they'll look at me like, is there anyone your age here? And I'm like, yeah, you just have to go find them. It's not that hard, there's more and more coming every single day, I feel. So I've definitely gone out there. I've seen people my age, like yesterday we were at the BNI group. I think four of us are under 23.
That's
And
great.
it's a huge group. So four out of like 75, I think we're at. I mean, it's not bad for under 25. It's very young. I think people don't realize that, especially for such like a business oriented place. I know four or five of us, we're pretty young. And I think that's awesome for us to build connection with each other, but also people older than us, people who have more experience. And so we're able to learn from that. But yes, I think that was a really great point. Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on and spending a few minutes of your time. This has been really great to learn about your experience and then different businesses, and then learning that texting came out 30 years ago, and then 30 years ago was not that long ago. Is there any last thing you kind of like to throw out there before I wrap it up? What's the best way someone could get in contact with you if they'd like to learn more about your business?
I do have a website. It's solutionsbysalm.com. And
That
my
rhymes.
my I use my cell phone for all of my business too. So
Yeah, I mean, you're the text tutor. That makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, again, I
So
appreciate.
I enjoyed the time with you too. I am
Yeah.
very impressed. You are well mature beyond your
Oh,
age.
thank you.
I look forward to keeping in touch with you and seeing what you do for your career plus what you do for the community. So I
Yeah.
am very impressed.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm so grateful anytime someone gives me their time. And then it's so sweet to hear that it was a good use of their time. Well, thank you again, Jeff, for coming on, sharing a few minutes. Thank you to anyone listening. I really appreciate you as well. And I will see you all next time. Bye.